Do you have pet peeves when it comes to writing or reading? If you are in any type of editorial role or you're in a critique group, are there just those lines and phrases and things that drive you crazy? I know I have them. I have a few pet peeves, and I'm going to talk about those today. Hi, I'm Eva Marie Everson. I'm the CEO of Word Weavers International and a best-selling award-winning author. If you want to know more about Word Weavers, which is a 501c6 group of writers, 1,000 members strong, all over the globe, and with a hope of being iron sharpening iron, we're just here to help each other along in our writing journeys. Well, you can go to word-weavers.com to find out more. And if you want to know more about me, you can go to Eva Marie Everson author.com. Okay, so I want to talk to you about two or three of my little pet peeves today. The first one is the flip-flop of tense. So I remember the first time I read a book that was written in present tense point of view. And I will admit, because most novels are written in past tense, but I will admit that the first time I read a novel written in present tense point of view, first couple of 3 pages, I was somewhat like, I'm really struggling here. I'm just not used to like reading in this particular tense. However, the work was so well done that within a couple of pages, I was 100% immersed in it. And I didn't have a problem at all reading in a tense that I was not accustomed to. However, I have discovered that writing in present tense point of view, especially for novelists, is not an easy task. And it's one that should be decided upon, really, really think about this, right, before you do it. But if you do it and you do it well, then you've got yourself a winner, because this book actually went on to win a lot of awards. But be careful, because I have found that I kind of messed up there. I have found that, especially new writers, when they want to write in present tense point of view, they tend to slip back and forth. That's that flip-flop of going from past tense to present tense to past tense, etc. You have to be extremely careful. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So if I were to write something like, I walk to the kitchen for a cup of coffee versus I walked to the kitchen for a cup of coffee. Or I can say my character, let's say her name is Jane. Jane walked to the kitchen for a cup of coffee versus Jane walks to the kitchen for a cup of coffee. Again, see, that's two different tense, same thing. But you want to be careful that you don't flip-flop. Once you make a decision as to which way you're going to write, you've got to stay within that tense. Okay, so that is pet peeve number one. The next one is sighing and laughing dialogue. Let me give you an example. I just can't seem to do it anymore, she sighed. Now, there is a comma and an end quote and a lowercase s in this particular line. I just can't seem to do it anymore, she sighed. Now, written like this, it means that she sighed that entire line. I just can't seem to do it anymore. And we know that no one sighs an entire line like that. So how would you write it if you want to give the indication or the impression that she is just so weary now? You would write it like this. Begin quote, I just can't seem to do it anymore, period, end quote. She sighed. Now, again, if you can do the same thing with laugh, there's that, I just can't seem to do it anymore, she laughed, which means the way she said it was, I just can't seem to do it anymore. Okay, now maybe that is the way she said it in your mind as you were typing, but I'm kind of thinking no. So let me give you another example. I'm going to read to you an example of this rewritten but using the period and then the end quote. Okay. So what if it was, and good grief, I just lost my place. Here we go. I found it. Okay. So what if it was something like this? He's laughing through an entire line of dialogue. And when I find him, I'll do to him what he did to me. He laughed. Well, that's a lot of dialogue for laughter. So what if you wrote it like this? And when I find him, I'll do to him what he did to me. John's eyes bore into mine, and then he laughed. Horrible laugh. A laugh I'll take to my grave. You see the difference in that? Now we know John's intent. So much clearer than if he had just merely laughed the entire line. All right, now, how about that third pet peeve of mine? And that's the word begins or began or beginning to, that kind of thing. So often I will read something such as, at the light, I turned right and began to accelerate. Well, you don't just begin because, you just simply accelerate. It's just that sense of you're beginning to do something. It means at some point, maybe you stopped, right? Or just let the character do it. It's just tightening that lineup just a little bit. But there are times when you do want to use like beginning to or began to, etc., especially if it's going to add to the mood and add to the scene. So let me give you an example. Again, I'm going to read to you. And let me just go back. You can simply say, I turned at the light, I turned right and accelerated. Okay, and I accelerated, etc. So you don't have to say began to. However, if you are writing in such a way that you want to show that someone, a character or yourself, if you're writing nonfiction, that a character begins to do something and stops, and there's a purpose in that, then yeah, write it that way. So here's an example. I began to walk down the northern hall of the estate, but stopped when I heard a noise overhead. So again, this is the beginning of something that stops for a purpose. Okay, those are my 3 pet peeves, and actually there are a few more in my existence, but those are 3 of my pet peeves. What about you? What pet peeves do you have when it comes to writing, or if you're a reader, when it comes to reading? I'll be interested to hear more about that. Again, if you're interested in knowing more about word weavers, go to word-weavers.com. And if you want to know more about me, Eva Marie Everson, author.com. Until next time, write on.